You are listening to Build, Excite, Equip, easy change management for project teams. I am your host, Nicola Graham, coming to you as a business change manager, entrepreneur and author, as well as discussing top tips and tricks for project teams to use to improve your project adoptions. Let's get started. Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's podcast. I am joined here with Anna Yeomans. Say hi, Anna.
Hi.
So we thought we would do a dual podcast with you today because we wanted to talk about social network analysis. And this is something that we do refer to as part of the Build, Excite, Equip model. And Anna has amples of experience with this particular area. So I thought, what better than to bring you along and ask you to really talk to our listeners today, Anna, about exactly what your experiences have been in the past. So you up for that today?
Yep, let's get into it.
So glad you said that.
Good thing that the knowledge comes to my head.
I think what inspired me to do this podcast with you today was I've obviously been doing the videos recently talking about all of the B assessments that we have, and we played back the social network analysis one, and like I said to you the other day, this is my favorite assessment, and there's so many reasons for that, and I thought it would be brilliant on a podcast, but also to bring those real life experiences, and you have had so much opportunity to see it working for real life. So that's really the direction of today's podcast. But before we begin, obviously I've spoken about this. I've got the video that people watch on YouTube. But in your words, Anna, if you were telling somebody, one of your friends or family about this, what would you say exactly an SNA is?
Right, so I think I'd start by saying it's the inner workings of the organisation in terms of their relationships, what's going on, who's chatting to who. So it's really getting those, I guess, internal webs of reality of what's going on. You each have your meetings, you speak with your managers, etc. But who do you speak to and go to for support? Who do you speak to when you're struggling? Who do you sort of speak to when something really exciting's happened? And they're not necessarily the people in your team, and they're not necessarily the people who are in your sort of direct reports. So I'd say that it's more inner workings of what goes on.
Absolutely, and the social side of that, right? I guess that's, the spoiler alert is in the name. It's those social networks that you have. And you mentioned spider webs. I mean, I'm intrigued as to why you use that word particularly about.
I think because that's how I envision it. Because it's not, someone never is going to go to one person all the time for every single reason. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have multiple people in your network that you go to depending on what the situation is and how you're feeling. When you get that with multiple people, then you kind of get that web look.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what we talk about in the social network analysis assessments, because it's not hierarchical. And you said very, very well at the start, actually, it's not always the people that colleagues are working with are their support groups, so are the people that they will turn to. It is more of a extrapolated out scenario, isn't it? And in your words, Anna, how do you extract this information? How would you understand that, or how you being the royal you, how would our listeners do that? What would your advice be there?
I think it's firstly you can get a gauge of what's happening. If you spend time with different people, if you can, into the offices or within meetings, you can sort of see who is interacting on more of a social side, or, who is like always mentioning certain names can come up. Mm-hmm. So you definitely can start to have a gauge in that. But also, if we want really, really accurate results, you do have to sort of use a survey to find that out and start asking those questions that are slightly different to what you might expect. More around, the coffee, the support, the, conversations that people are having. If you want more accurate data on it, really.
Yep. Okay. So we started off by talking around the fact that a social network analysis is essentially the assessments that can be done to understand the social connections people have within an organisation. We've also spoken around the fact that actually the way that you could do this is you could observe this if you're physically there and you're able to kind of see those friendships evolving. But obviously the more accurate way would be to do it through an assessment. What are you learning? What is the thing that comes out of this,
Yeah, I was just thinking we're talking about this with the outcome. So this outcome of it, what you will learn is essentially who is going to support you in helping people move into that change, whatever it may be. So who are going to be your influencers, the people that are going to be able to influence and bring people on board with the change, and who are your champions, which are the people that are going to talk about it a lot, really enthusiastic about it, and support others and bring them along that journey. So yeah, it's what we call your change agents, is that it's really finding who become your biggest support as a change manager and project team.
Absolutely. And they fundamentally come crucial as part of it. And obviously Anna and I are both working on the build, excite, equip methodology, and we talk about this throughout our training, but those change agents are crucial, right? It is going to be the difference between your project succeeding and your project not succeeding. For a kind word. The reality is you can't do everything by yourself. And what we promote in our methodology is project teams can do these activities, but that's not, that there is a reason a business change manager exists today as a full-time role to do this. But if you don't have that, then you need to be able to find those quick wins. And change agents are a quick win, aren't they? Essentially, because that person or persons become part of your project from day one, and they become your communicators. And if you nail that, actually the rest of the role is a lot easier for you. And to your point, Anna, nailing it in the correct way, in that spider diagram kind of mapping way rather than the hierarchical way, really promotes strong candidates for that role.
Yeah,
absolutely. And we've obviously been working with the SNAs together for four plus years now, haven't we? And we've used this across every client that we've worked with. I was curious to talk about a specific client of ours, and for NDAs, we won't mention that name today. So let's call them a fictional name of Smithfields Limited. So we're going to talk about Smithfields Limited today. Anna, do you want to describe a little bit more in detail about how that worked? I mean, let's talk about cooperation of Smithfield Limited to start with.
Yeah. So this was a global company in which there were teams and offices all over, but those teams,
50 countries.
Yeah, a lot of them. But the way that it worked was these teams and offices didn't work only within their country. They were very cross. So you might have sort of departments that were in multiple different countries, and you may have a country with multiple teams that never really cross paths in terms of working. They might only cross paths when they go on socials.
Yeah.
So yeah, very complex setup.
Yeah.
Sure.
And do you remember that they didn't actually have an accurate, up-to-date, or even useful hierarchical chart? Do you remember that? Do you remember when we first turned up there and it was kind of like, we've kind of got these charts. What do you mean you kind of got these charts? And what's that dotted line? Well, because this country, as say the marketing team, only talk to certain departments in this country, but they don't necessarily talk to the same departments in the other countries. That's how scattered and crazy their organisational design was, wasn't it? It was really challenging for us.
Yeah,
I think it's fair to say, because we were like, where do we start? How can we help to try and promote these, and recruit change agents when we don't even know who really speaks to whom?
Yeah.
And this is where I think it's fair to say that we saw the most powerful use of the SNA tool.
Yeah.
So how did you do it?
So this was done via an assessment, one of our Build, Excite, Equip assessments. which was sent out by, not by me, by someone at the director level. So first, actually going back, we had to get their buy-in, the director's buy-in, because they're going to be, if it's the kind of assessment where it needs to come and be sort of said, you really need to do this, because there are questions you might be a bit like, why am I being asked this? So yeah, that was the first step, is get the questionnaire sent out, and then comes back with all of the data, and it's weighted in a very particular way that finds people as influencers and finds people as champions, and they have different traits. So that means the questions are weighted differently for both. Yeah. And once that data is analysed, we then reported it back to our project board and our key stakeholders who knew sort of the different teams, and they were very impressed with the result.
Well, I think it's a way, to be fair.
Yeah, and they weren't quite sure why they were doing it, and I guess it really showed some interesting things. 'Cause one thing about this assessment is it's not just for one project.
Yeah, exactly. Well, if you recall, the communication department actually took it on as well, didn't they? Because they realised that they could use it to really try and promote certain communication that needed to go across the areas. And I mean, I think some of the words that I heard when we were in those board meetings together was, and just for our listeners, just to promote this company's longevity of teams. Like, a lot of these people have been working in that organisation for something like 30 years. It's like it was a really long-standing company, and so these people really truly did know each other really well, and they knew who had those connections and who had those friendships and who kind of gravitated to whom. So when they fed back their real pleasant surprise about how accurate it was for them, we knew immediately that they knew these people well enough to be able to validate it that way.
Yeah.
So it was very impressive, actually, just how much that helped them. And obviously we had then champions and influencers came from that result. Yeah. And that really was then fed into all of your change management strategy, or our change management strategy, as to how we can utilize those influencers to help really promote and engage, and how we could then use those champions and coach them in a way that they can coach others, essentially. So, and Anna, if you were to, if somebody was listening to us today and they were to kind of go, this is great, how do I do this? Obviously, this is a really complex question, and the answer is it's not easy, right? It's not an easy assessment. What would you recommend they do, other than obviously seek our support? Which you can, by the way, don't forget, do reach out.
I'd say the first step, as I mentioned, is sort of get to know whether it be the whole organisation or department, but get to know the people that are the change is happening to, and see if you can, speak to people and just ask them those questions, like, who do you go to for support, or, who do you tell that great idea to? Or who would you sort of ask for validation of an idea that you want to put in place? So it's having those initial conversations. And then from that, you can think of a set of questions you can ask relating to that. And the tricky bit is of really doing your weightings. And that's where you need more of an analytical sort of mindset.
Yep. Get a good BA, basically.
Yeah. Because you will want to think of the questions you're asking and whether that directs you to being an influencer or directs you to being a champion. So, for example, a question of, who do you go to for support? That's going to direct people more towards the champion role. Whereas who do you go to with a new idea? That will probably direct you more to the influencer role.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, it's sort of a bit of a tricky one to understand that, to break down that question.
Yeah, and it's fair to say that will take time, right? So if you are going to do this, you will need a strong BA or a tool like what we've got. it will take time, but the reason for doing it is so much more than your one project. You know, we're always talking in Be Change, we always say, don't just bring a change manager into a project, teach your project teams to do change, and then all of a sudden you see a greater result. It's the same with this, right? You're not just doing an S&A for one project, do it for the company, and all of a sudden all of your projects can use it. And again, like we've given a great example there, the communication team can as well.
I say another example as well is that often once we do have this set of people, because they're generally more passionate about change, you know, they want to give to the organisation and to the organisation's culture, and the way it works is we've created forums, and I know for a fact that they've continued since we left or the project ended. And what was really lovely about that is that for this particular global company, they made connections with people that they would have never come across. And now they're sharing ideas, and now they're saying, oh, well, I use this tool this way. Maybe your team can use that. So it's creating that whole network of sharing and sort of knowing people in your company that aren't, that you wouldn't come across otherwise.
And that's, you've just reminded me about that actually, because that was really wonderful to see that people had made those connections in the project, but, you know, really did push it out. So yeah, great memory there. Fantastic. Okay. Anything else you want to add about SNAs?
That's a very weird question. I don't think so. It's a topic that you could go on to for forever, but I think we have sort of rounded it off nicely. And we've got a lot more content on SNAs and breaking it down. I'd say it's more of a complex topic,
and it's definitely it's an area that's got a big old wad of text in my book, and obviously we do it in the course. So if you want to learn more about this, obviously we do have the book, we do have the course that you can join us for, or if you're an organisation that really want our support, reach out to us, because obviously we can help train your teams to do this as well. So thank you. Nice, short, sweet one today. But I thought it was really good to chat about that example because, you know, thanks, Anna, you were obviously absolutely paramount to the SNAs through many of our clients. And that was one of the best results that we had. So, you know, for our listeners, don't be shy in using them in your projects. And Anna made that really great point at the start. Make sure you get the management on board. They are the ones who need to kind of push and promote these questions, because if not, your teams might be a little bit more wary.
So because you want accurate answers and people to be honest and comfortable with being honest in these surveys. And
very, very true.
Otherwise you won't get the most accurate answer.
People pay brownie points to the wrong people. Excellent. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Don't forget to click and subscribe. We have content everywhere. We've got our YouTube where I do talk about the SNAs on there amongst others. Seek out our website, www.bechange.co.uk. We also have obviously our podcast that we'd love you to follow us and listen to more of our good content. And if you want to sign up to our CLCs, our Change Leader Chronicles, that's a newsletter that we do send out once a month as well, where we talk about these in even more detail. And I will go through this one in really great detail with really great imagery and stuff like that. So, you know, we give this content out free, guys. It's really useful. For us, it's years of experience within projects, within change projects. And if you are a project person, if you are dealing with anything that is going to be impacting the people that the project is going to do it, embrace the change. And you can do that. You can really learn it through our methodology, Build, Excite, Equip. So until the next time, have a great day, have a great week, and we'll see you again. Thanks again for joining us, Anna.
Bye.
Bye-bye.